I mean, if you go on the internet, I've seen different operations out of California where people are just piling stuff on. So you have some salmon that's marinated in something, and then you have some ahi tuna that's marinated in something, or raw, which makes no sense to me actually. And then they got some imitation crab that's been tossed in some mayonnaise, and then they pile it all on together, and then some crunchies that they call it, they throw on top of that, and then throw on some fried onions on top of that, pile on some tobiko, and then they go somewhere and I guess they just eat it. And even when it's piled on that high, okay, so there's rice underneath it, there's vegetables and pickles underneath it, but the only way to get it in there is you just gotta peel off the top. I guess that's one way to eat. It's just not for me. My name is Michael Jong Lim. I'm the executive chef and a partner here at Chikarashi in New York City. Our two monikers, so to speak, are seed to table poke bowls and a chef-driven poke. Things are proportional for a reason. A certain amount of protein, a certain amount of sauce, a certain amount of vegetables, a certain amount of rice, proportion to everything. And our idea was reinterpreting, instead of just copying and pasting, reinterpreting what the base components and the idea of poke is and reinterpreting it in our style that would fit this part of the world.
It's got a little shine to it. It's nice. It sticks, but it's individual. You know, I didn't know really much about poke, honestly. You know, I just kind of knew vaguely what it was, but it's nothing that really interested me. I started seeing it more and more, but hadn't really piqued my interest yet. But when I decided to do this and I started looking into it and I started tasting what was available around here, I'm sure there's better versions out there. But one of the worst things I saw was that the rice was shit. One time I got a rice from this other poke joint and they hadn't washed it properly, so it was a clump, a starchy like block, where it was overcooked on the outside and raw on the inside. And I was like, these people don't get that this is the most important part. If this is not right, it's shit, shit. This is called polishing. So the first rinse is very important. You have to get the starch out and then dump it quickly or it goes back into the rice.
Is it cold or?
The water is always cold. Yeah, this is a koshigigari rice that we use. I like Tamaki Gold, and it's made in California. It's Japanese rice. From what I understand, this rice has won a lot of awards in Japan for its quality. Tastes a mellow vinegariness with a touch of sugar, a little more salt forward. Taste the kombu. I taste the sake. It's nicely balanced. It's a nice base. I don't know, I just don't believe in good enough. It just doesn't make sense. What's good enough, you know? It's either right or it's wrong. It's either beautiful or it's not. So I decided to showcase that part and really take it to the full level. All right, good morning. We're in Brooklyn at Nishimaru on Apollo Street, and it's about 6:30 in the morning. Nishimaru Inc. Is a company that I've been working with for about 12 years, and they provide some of the best fish in New York City. They specialize in tuna, and they specialize in Japanese fish and products. I get everything from them. This is a wild bluefin from Boston that was brought in this morning. This fish may be, what, 200, 250 pounds? 220 pounds. If I were to use this whole tuna, it'll probably last me about a week. Whether it's tuna or uni or other fish, you know, local or from Japan, if he sees something that's special or nice, even at Fulton, he'll just pick it up for me.
And what do you see here?
This is gorgeous. Really fatty, it's wild, it's perfectly marbled. And usually they give you a small piece of the tail in Japan, and you smash it in your fingers, and from stickiness and the color, you can tell the fat content, which is the deciding factor on how much tuna is worth. It's sweet. It's got a slight sweetness to it. Only wild tuna has that flavor. So this tuna will end up at Chikarashi Canal Street, and from the time it was caught, which is in the last 20 minutes, it will be at Chikarashi Canal Street in the next 45 minutes. This is the bluefin that we were looking at Nishimadu. This one's from Boston. It's wild bluefin, Atlantic. So I'm gonna separate this part, which is the red meat is the kami, and then the chutoro, and then the otoro, the fattier tuna here, the layers. So I gotta separate this part and start processing it for service. Clean. Yeah. You know, super beautiful, super clean. You wanna age it a bit. This is the pork belly of the sea.
It is a fact that bluefin tuna is a species that's being attacked and that's being really, really overfished. And there are certain places where tuna comes from that I refuse to buy because of the pressures and the fishing practices. But I try to limit how much I use, and I only use Atlantic, and which is the most populous, the most sustainable up to now.
You want the fat in the sinew because tuna fat sinew, when it melts, it's like it's like a gel. It's like collagen. It's delicious.
During the week, I go through somewhere between 800 and 1,200 pounds of fish, of many different species. And part of that was to offset the pressure on the tuna and give them more variety. And using other lesser known types of fish, and they've done very well.
This is wild Long Island fluke. It's Japanese called hirame. It's one of my favorite fish. It's super delicious. You can cook it any way.
Like I said, the hunter is one of the biggest environmentalists out there. The fisherman, and I believe more and more the chef. I want to protect the sea and the lands as much as anybody else because I live off of it. One of my core things I wanted to, as far as educate or get my message out, is that fast casual doesn't have to be crap or mediocre or just whatever. You know, you can put care into it and make a beautiful product, and it doesn't have to be crap at any part of the spectrum. I mean, one of the things my sensei taught me was, if you want to draw a cat, you don't look for a cat, you look for a tiger. If you don't get a tiger, you get a cat. You reach for the mountaintop. If you don't get to the mountaintop, you still get very close. Set your goals high and push and push and push. That's all it's about. What would people say about me that know me? The people who really know me, they would say that I'm very intense. I have a temperament, but over the years vastly improved. They would say that I have a big heart, but I'm very intense.